And hello, Jets fans. We thought the biggest news would be the Jets playing in London this week, but Joe Douglas surprising all of us, extending John FranklinMyers to a new contract, which is a 4-year extension off of his current contract for $55 million, $30 million guaranteed. So much to get into in this contract, but my initial thoughts is this was a brilliant move by Joe Douglas, and we've seen a pattern now that I think establishes what Joe Douglas is looking for in a free agent, what kind of players he's looking to give big money to, and also how this impacts Marcus Maye. But let me just start with this and why this is a big deal for the Jets. It's not just getting a good and young player that is ascending and that is becoming a very good pass rusher in this league, but this helps to defeat a narrative around Joe Douglas and the Jets that has persisted basically over the last 2 years, which is the Jets do not want to pay their young talent. We saw it with the Jamal Adams contract situation. We saw it this past offseason with the Marcus Maye. And we saw a lot of people in the media get on Joe Douglas, absolutely killing him. Oh, what do you mean you won't pay Jamal Adams? He's the best player on your team. He's a dynamic player. Then you saw it with Marcus Maye. Oh, Marcus Maye was your team MVP. He's a captain, and you're only franchise tagging him. But it's kind of funny how hindsight kind of works, where you look at the whole deals and you look at the Jamal Adams deal. Looks like Joe Douglas was pretty right about that one. I mean, $70 million has bought Seattle 0 interceptions and 0 sacks by the time of this recording. And Marcus Maye now is in a bunch of legal issues. And part of the problem, too, with both of those players were they were guys that Joe Douglas didn't bring in. And I do think that's a big part of it that everyone overlooks. But getting back on track, with this contract signing, it does do a big thing, which is it tells this locker room and it tells the young guys on this team, if you perform and we see you as a big part of this future, you're going to get paid. And that's big because you have big contracts coming up, such as Quinnen Williams, Mekhi Becton in probably a year or two. And it sends a message to this locker room that, hey, we're going to take care of you if you perform. And John FranklinMyers has done that. 3 sacks the first 4 weeks of the season. And this was a smart move on Joe Douglas's part because if he hit the free agent market, he was going to get a massive payday. He's a good culture guy in the locker room. He's a guy that is well liked. And he even said after the contract that he was happy to be a part of the Jets organization. Bill, these are the type of guys you need to build around, especially with the culture. And I really like this move too because this is a very good deal because it does pay him a lot of money. But if he performs at the level which I think he can perform, then this is a very good deal and it's not a big cap killer because this is a guy that, to me, is going to have double-digit sacks. I mean, he's already got 3 of the first 4 games. I mean, don't forget now we have a 17-game schedule. If he stays healthy, I easily could see him getting the 10 sacks on this team. And this could be a situation where he could be a potential Pro Bowler even. And the Jets locked him up long-term, which is a smart move. And if he hit the free agent market, there's no way the Jets would be able to get him for this deal. He would have gotten overpaid and gotten a huge contract because it's hard to find pass rushers. But I always say this with general managers is you always look for patterns. When I do my mock drafts for a team, I always look at patterns from general managers because they tell you how they value players. They tell you what positions they value. And Joe Douglas has really given us a blueprint of how he values talent. And it's clear, and I think that this also works well with Robert Saleh because I think him and Robert Saleh both view this the same way. And this is why I think this last draft class has worked a lot better than the previous draft class. But Joe Douglas has told us, I value line play. His last 2 drafts, first round, he's drafted an offensive lineman. You look at the free agent signings that he's had. Where has he put the big money outside of wide receiver? It has been on defensive line or offensive line. That is where he wants to invest. And people, like, I laugh because I see mock drafts already for the Jets, them taking the great corner out of LSU. I see them taking cornerbacks, and I laugh because to me, Joe Douglas has told you he values the offense and defensive lines in the front seven more. Because this is how I interpret how Joe Douglas views free agency and the draft. It is very difficult to find impact players on the defensive line and on the offensive line. And when you see them in the NFL, teams will not let them go. That's why Joe Douglas has invested first round picks and money in those positions. However, Joe Douglas also feels that he can find talent at certain positions later in the draft, albeit cornerback. And people were saying coming into the season, oh, the Jets didn't invest in cornerback. The Jets didn't invest in cornerback. Bryce Hall looks like a pretty good quarterback. Michael Carter II looks like a pretty good cornerback. The corners haven't been a huge issue for the Jets, and they have found really good talent on day 3 of the draft. And that tells you that Joe Douglas's comment saying, look, I can find good athletic players for our secondary late in the draft, and I don't have to pay a premium for that. So what does that mean? I believe that Marcus Maye is not long for the Jets. Now, if this DUI situation didn't come up, could there have been a situation where he would be traded at the deadline? Potentially. But the way I see it is he's going to finish up this year at the Jets. The Jets are going to franchise tag him at the end of the season and then move him on for draft compensation or for another player. Because Joe Douglas has been telling you he values offensive line, defensive line, and even to an extent receiver. And I get it. Receivers now with the rule changes, they can impact the game. We've seen him give a big contract to Corey Davis. He's taken 2 receivers in the second round in the last 2 drafts. So he values those positions. But secondary, he's saying I can find guys later in the draft that can make an impact. And you look, he's done that in the first 2 drafts. He's found pretty much 2 starters on the 3rd day of the draft. So for Joe Douglas, this is a big win because John FranklinMyers was not drafted by him, was a free agent find off of the waivers, a really smart and shrewd move by him to bring him in. And that is one thing that doesn't get talked about enough with Joe Douglas has been his ability to find these players on the waiver wire. Last year was John FranklinMyers. This year it's finding Quincy Williams, who looks like a stud at linebacker and really fits the system like a glove. So I understand that Jet fans judge Douglas, and I get it. Like, the win-loss record isn't great, but you have to be excited about this. This is a good young pass rush. And really, as a Jet fan, I'm excited because I'm going to be honest, for really the first time in my life that I can really remember, the Jets have a very good pass rush. It's really fun to watch. For how many years have we seen this team have absolutely zero pass rush unless they blitzed? How many times have we seen them try to rush with 4 guys just for the quarterback to sit back there all day and then eventually throw it down the field? The Jets have a good pass rush now, and they don't even have arguably their best pass rusher in Carl Lawson this year. How is this pass rush going to look when Carl Lawson comes back? I mean, Sheldon Rankins has done a great job. Quinnen Williams has looked great, and John FranklinMyers looks fantastic as well. So the Jets, this is a great day for them. This is a good day for them, and for a myriad of reasons. You get a good young ascending player. You get a good pass rusher locked up. You add a key building block for your future going forward. But more importantly, you've sent a message to the locker room, to the younger guys, because agents of these players, like Quinnen Williams' agent, said, hey, I'm not sure about the Jets. You know, they've had Marcus Maye and Jamal Adams, and hey, they're good, but they didn't really want to pay them. Now it's shown this locker room, look, if you're bought in and you ball out, we are going to pay you. But this also tells me that don't expect Marcus Maye to be a part of this team in 2022. Even before all this DUI information came out, it's funny because we hear about Marcus Maye and his agent wanting a new contract, and then all of a sudden, John FranklinMyers, the fans were saying after the first couple weeks that they want an extension, and this really quietly happened behind the scene and got out. This was done. This deal's done at the quarter mark of the season, basically. And really, there was, I know the fans want this to happen, but it wasn't like the media was demanding this to happen. It wasn't like this was becoming a big story. But it shows to me that, look, Joe Douglas prioritized this player. He's not prioritizing necessarily Marcus Maye. Now, could Marcus Maye maybe be back next year if they can come to a deal? Sure, but to me, Joe Douglas has proven he is a number, and he's not going to overpay for a safety. If he's going to overpay for anything, it's going to be offensive line, and it's going to be for a pass rusher or a defensive lineman because he feels he can find that secondary help. So this deal to me shows that he can get a deal done. He can extend a player. But more importantly, it also shows too that he has certain values on players. And for Marcus Maye right now, even if we took out the DUI situation, he doesn't value safeties and wants to have them be a major hit on the cap because he feels he can put that money somewhere else. So this is a great day for basically Jet fans, for John FranklinMyers, for this defense, for Robert Saleh. The only person it might not be a good day for is Marcus Maye and his potential future with the New York Jets. But overall, Joe Douglas, great job bringing in this player who's had a great role with this team, and it sends a great message to this locker room going forward. That's going to do it for this episode of Rich Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us here today. For all the latest on the New York Jets, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our content and reaction throughout the 2021 season. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, this is Rich Sports Talk.